Probably wouldn't expect Redman to write a comic book, and you definitely wouldn't expect that comic to be a companion piece to Muddy Waters 2, an album that itself is a sequel to Muddy Waters, nearly 30 years later. On paper, that sounds like a weird creative gamble. The more you think about it, it's the most Redman move possible. When Muddy Waters came out in 1996, it didn't just sound different, it felt different. It was grimy, funny, uncomfortable, and completely uninterested in being polished. Redman wasn't selling a fantasy or an aspirational version of success. He was letting you into his world exactly as it was, mess and all. That album felt like a place you stepped into, not a product that you consumed. There's a reason Redman has always felt so relatable. A lot of people still remember his episode of MTV Cribs because it was the complete opposite of everyone else's. No mansion flex, no luxury theater tour, just Redman being funny, grounded, and real. That authenticity stuck, and it became part of how people understood him, not just as a rapper, but as a personality. And that authenticity has always gone hand in hand with his humor. Redman has never tried to be slick or untouchable. He's always played the role of hip-hop's court jester, the guy who tells you the truth by making you laugh first. The jokes aren't accidents, they're the point. He undercuts ego, pokes holes in image, and leans into being ridiculous in a way that actually makes him feel more honest, not less. Fast forward almost 3 decades later, and Muddy Waters 2 arrives in a very different cultural movement. Redman is older, hip-hop is older, legacy matters now in a way that it didn't in the 90s. And instead of trying to recreate the exact sound or chase nostalgia, he does something more interesting. He expands the world. That's where the graphic novel comes in. Muddy Waters 2 isn't just an album sequel, it's a continuation of attitude. And turning that continuation into a comic actually makes a lot of sense. Comics are great at holding on to eras. They let exaggeration, memory, humor, and reflection exist all at the same time. They don't require things to be cleaned up or flattened out. Redman himself co-writes the book, and you can feel it immediately, not just in the dialogue, but in the confidence to let things be weird, gross, and unapologetically silly. This doesn't feel like a celebrity licensing his name. It feels like a creative extension. The premise alone tells you what kind of book this is. Doc invents miracle soil called mud, dirt so powerful that when the right music is played, plants grow at hyperspeed. In theory, it could help feed the world. In reality, it also grows incredibly potent weed. When the mud gets stolen, everything spirals into chaos. Bad decisions, relationship drama, body horror humor, and weaknesses so specific they feel ripped straight out of a Redman verse. What really surprised me is how well this comic captures the feel of Redman's persona. Not just the references, the rhythm, the timing, the willingness to let a joke land visually and then move on. This book is genuinely funny, not that that's clever type of funny, it's laugh out loud funny. I had multiple moments where a visual gag or a line actually made me stop and laugh, and that's hard to fake. That's why this comic works. It understands exaggeration. It understands when to let something breathe and when to hit you with it. In that sense, the medium isn't a gimmick, it's a perfect fit. This feels less like a traditional comic and more like a hip-hop concept album translated into panels. And that connection between the albums and the comic is what really makes the whole thing click. If Muddy Waters in 1996 was about being fully inside the mess of the moment, Muddy Waters 2 feels like revisiting that mess later in life without pretending time didn't pass. Still sharp, still playful, still uninterested in being polished. That's why this also works for people who don't read comics. There's no continuity to learn, there's no lore to memorize. You just need to understand the vibe. If you love hip-hop culture, personality-driven storytelling, or creative projects that don't stay in their lane, this is incredibly accessible. And if you do read comics, it's refreshing, a reminder that the medium can stretch and still feel true. A quick note before I wrap this up, Vault Comics was kind enough to send me a couple copies of Muddy Waters 2 to give away to you. If you're interested, subscribe and leave a comment telling me the most meaningful sequel you've experienced. Whether that's music, movies, comics, anything, you are entered. This giveaway is US only, and it'll close 7 days after this video goes live. So at the end of the day, Muddy Waters 2 feels exactly like what it should. Not a reboot, not a nostalgia grab, just Redman being himself in a different medium. It's authentic, genuinely hilarious, and completely confident in its own weirdness.